This is going to be a little catch-up video, but I'm going to start with just mentioning a few quick things, and then my review of Kong Skull Island, which I just got back from. And then I'm going to talk about the movie The Founder, starring Michael Keaton, which I just was going to review quite a while ago, and I never got around to it. I saw the movie very late anyway. But I'm going to talk about that one because I've been wanting to. And then I'm going to talk really briefly about a bunch of movie parties I saw recently at the Alamo Drafthouse. But for starters, we want to acknowledge the sad passings of TCM host Robert Osborne, which many of us grew up watching on Turner Classic Movies, as well as Bill Paxton, who Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Big Love, Aliens. My favorite Bill Paxton character, the big brother from the film Weird Science. So yeah, major losses. Bill Paxton, still very young. That was tragic. But moving on from that. And then the Oscars, I already talked about that. That was recent. I didn't get to watch it, but I heard what happened. That's sad. Not too sad that La La Land didn't win, because I, as you know, was not a big fan of that movie. As much as I love movie musicals, I did not care much for that one. So that stuff out of the way, I just wanted to mention some Netflix stuff and a few other things I caught up on. This is going to be really quick, and we're going to get to Kong Skull Island. I just wanted to say, it's still on there, I believe. Get on there. I know Valentine's Day is over, but you've got to watch Michael Bolton's Valentine's Day special. It's hilarious. The man is hilarious. Michael Bolton is so funny. I watched that special like 3 times around and on the holiday, and I'll probably watch it again. It's so good. I really need them to put that out on Blu-ray or something, because I need that. I need that every Valentine's Day. So good. They did a Bill Murray Christmas special for Netflix like a year or 2 ago. It was interesting. It was weird. It had its moments. It was very Bill Murray. It was weird. I don't think it was hilarious. This was pretty hilarious. I mean, not every moment, but it's like even when the usually funny people were just being kind of okay, the reactions from Michael Bolton were hilarious. And I mean, intentionally. I mean, he's talented in this respect. I mean, it's not that he's like a great actor, but he's funny. He's really funny, intentionally. He's good. He's not great in some respects, but he's good. He's really, it's a funny special. I highly recommend it. Now, as far as other stuff, oh well, finally got to see Westworld, the HBO TV series. Love it. Can't wait for the next season. Caught up with Bates Motel. They're on the final season right now. It's so good. Everything about that show has been just incredible. What else? Found out there's another Marvel show coming to Netflix. I forget the title right now, but I'm excited. It's supposed to be the last one for this group of shows, because they're going to have a big crossover at some point. Still haven't started watching Supergirl and all the... I'm still behind on the DC stuff, even though I did start watching The Flash, and I'm pretty far into Arrow, but I haven't gotten to watch anything else yet. What else? I guess that's pretty much that. So, Once Upon a Time, they're back. Saw the first new episode. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Once Upon a Time. It was nothing with, I don't recall any like shocking revelations of like new characters. They did show how Emma Swan got the name Swan and everything. It was good. I don't remember. I need to watch it again. Anyway, so let's move on to Kong Skull Island, which I just got back from seeing at the Alamo Drafthouse, the Village Alamo Drafthouse here in North Austin. Lately, I've been getting the front row seats there. That's actually my preferred seating because they have these seats now that recline all the way back. Very nice. And I'm going to wear this hat for the entire video. A Kong Skull Island. This movie is, first off, I'm pretty sure there's a reason it's not called King Kong Skull Island. I think there's some kind of legal issues where they can't use the king part. Because I think there's some people that hold the rights to King Kong and some people who hold the rights to, like, that they can just use Kong for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal is, and maybe that's not the case. Maybe these people could have used King Kong and they just didn't. I don't know. But I've heard that somewhere, and that's why you have Donkey Kong and stuff like that. I don't know. There's like a, you know, Night of the Living Dead kind of, and Return of the Living Dead kind of thing going on there with the Kong name. But anyway, that's not super important. The point of this new movie, Kong Skull Island, this is a reboot of the Kong franchise, I guess. Again, that depends on the whole legal rights thing. But the point is they're trying to do a thing where they tie Kong in with Godzilla, and they're going to come together and have Kong versus Godzilla. It's all part of this thing that's going on now that I love, actually, even though it's a gimmick. But it's the whole movie franchise thing, and I love it in the MCU, and they're the ones who popularized it. Even though they didn't invent it, because this goes back to the Universal Monsters and probably some other stuff too, but definitely the Universal Monsters. Because everybody's saying it's a very comic book thing where you have all these different characters with their own stories, and they come together and they intermingle, and that's true, but they were doing that in the 40s with Universal Monsters. But anyway, and Universal Monsters are trying to, you know, come back and do that too, but with this new Tom Cruise movie as the first one, I don't know if it's going to work. I mean, they already tried it they tried to start it off with the last Dracula movie they made, and that didn't do well, so now they're saying the beginning is this Mummy movie. I don't know what's going to happen with that. Anyway, this Kong movie, which does drop hints to Godzilla, and you do want to stay till after the credits for the major Godzilla, you know, intro thing. And that's way at the end of the credits, and you think it's not going to happen, and then you hear a little voiceover, and then it starts a pretty long clip about how Godzilla is going to come into the picture. But anyway, that's jumping ahead. The movie is about some science people who want to go to an island. It's actually John Goodman, who's like a cryptozoological kind of a researcher guy, and this takes place in the 70s. And it's during or right after Vietnam. It's like right at the end of Vietnam. And he wants to take a group to this island, Skull Island, where he believes there are, well, giant monster animals and stuff. It's a little unclear on how much he knew of what was there, but he suspected giant animals. He's part of this group called Monarch, and what they do is they try to find giant monster animals. And so he manages to get some funding and get some military support. So Sam Jackson and some soldiers that he's got, because he's like in charge of these soldiers. I don't know anything about rank, but he's the main soldier guy. and he's gonna escort these scientists to Skull Island. They also pick up a tracker, which is Tom Hiddleston, Loki from the Marvel movies, and he's very cool in this movie. He's very cool, and it took me a while to realize that was Loki. I was trying to remember who this, you know, I mean, it's obvious who the actor is, but I'm not like a Tom Hiddleston fangirl, so I don't. I'm like, I know this guy. This isn't the guy who voices Rocket Raccoon, right? But no, it's Loki. Anyway, he looks totally different. And so he's going to be a tracker guy they're hiring. And then they bring a photographer who is this very attractive young woman, and she's sort of she's like an anti-war photographer is how she describes herself. She's been going to, like, she was in Vietnam taking photographs for the anti-war effort. And then so there's them, and then there's Sam Jackson, and there's some geologists. The one that I remember is the beautiful Asian woman, because there was two women in this movie, and they were both very attractive. But I don't remember. There was another. There was like a guy geologist, I guess. There was like a group. I just remember the one, the lady. But so they all go to Skull Island, and they're arriving in helicopters, and immediately they run into King Kong, and he destroys the helicopters and kills a bunch of the soldiers. And this sends Sam Jackson in this like rage of like revenge. So and the group gets split into two, and one group is all soldiers, mostly soldiers, and the other group is everybody else and like one soldier. So like the soldier group, I think, had like one guy who wasn't a soldier, or I think John Goodman was with them also. And then the other group was everybody else, and like I recall like one soldier. That's all I remember in the other group. And the Sam Jackson soldier group is out on a mission, and he's saying we need to go try to rescue this one soldier. We don't know what happened to him, but really he just wants to go back to where Kong is and destroy King Kong. While the other group, they end up finding John C. Reilly, who is like a guy who was stranded on the island since like the 40s. He was a pilot in World War II, and he got stranded on the island with a Japanese soldier, and they became like best friends. And he has befriended the tribe. The Japanese soldier has already died, but he has befriended the tribe, the native people on this island. I think this is in the South Pacific or something. And so, did I ever say spoiler alert? Spoiler alert, because I'm telling you the story. So anyway, they're trying to they're trying to get back to the rendezvous point where they're going to get picked up so they can get out of this island, because it's obviously full of giant horrible monsters, not just Kong, but giant lizards and giant insects and everything, and it's just like a death trap, so they want to get out of there. And of course John C. Reilly's all happy because they're going to take him out of there too, and he's a little crazy, but he's also not, and he well, I'll get into that because that's part of the review of this movie. But anyway, so you have the two groups. They all want to escape, except Sam Jackson is throwing a monkey wrench in it because he wants to kill King Kong. Everybody else just wants to get out of there. But eventually they meet up with each other, but then they have to stop Sam Jackson because he's just gone crazy. And he just wants to kill Kong. And Kong is actually... And I really love this. They actually establish Kong is pretty much a good guy in this movie. He just kills the horrible bad giant monsters, and he saves the people sometimes. And he probably destroyed those helicopters in the beginning because he didn't know what they were, and they look like giant insects. I don't know, but and he does well. I don't like to give all the spoilers, but anyway, but he's a good guy. He really is. And I'm hoping that when he goes up against Godzilla, they'll kind of make them both be good guys and destroy horrible monsters. The old thing where they fight in the beginning, but then they team up and do good stuff. That's what I'm hoping we see in the future movies. But anyway, and they didn't just hint about Godzilla, they hinted about Mothra and all the other like Godzilla characters. But anyway, so well, that's pretty much the plot. If I say anything else, I'm going to be giving it away. But it's a very satisfying movie, in my opinion, with the way things wrap up during the credits and everything. because for me, this movie was so much about John C. Reilly's character getting rescued from the island, as well as Kong, you know, just enjoying Kong. That's what this movie's about for me. And again, I enjoyed also the ladies who were excellent, you know, in every level. But yes, they were also very attractive. And but when I started watching this movie, I was a little bit skeptical at first because it seemed like it was very heavy on the Vietnam soldier stuff. Now, I grew up in the 80s. I'm very much one of those kids like from Stranger Things or Goonies. That was me at that time, you know, riding on my bike everywhere with the other kids, and just, you know, we're kids in the 80s. And that was the best thing to be in the 80s. It was the best time to be in the 80s, the best age. Saturday morning cartoons, you know, Ecto Cooler and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to be a teenager in the 80s. I would not have wanted that. Actually, I wish I was a teenager right now. All they do is have sex and party and be emo and But I mean, I wouldn't want to be a teen in the 80s. You know, I was a teen in the 90s. Meh, not a great time either, but whatever. Yeah, this is the good time to be in your teens and 20s. I wish I was 20 years old right now. But anyway, where was I? Yeah, I mean, in the 80s, there was a lot of Vietnam stuff, like in the movies and the TV. I guess it wasn't that long after the whole Vietnam thing. And I hated movies and TV shows about Vietnam. I just didn't. I like movies and stuff with more fantasy in them. I don't really like, you know, war stuff unless it's Star Wars, which I love, or something like that. But, or I do like World War II stuff. I like World War II. But yeah, so at first, you know, the movie had to win me over, and it took a long time for them to get over on the island. When they did get on the island, when Kong showed up, immediately it was better. And then when John C. Reilly showed up, boom, it was an excellent movie from then on. I love John C. Reilly. He is so funny. He's so awesome. And all of a sudden, I loved this movie. From that moment onward. It still was heavy with the soldier stuff. I'm not a big fan of, like, I'm not saying I'm not a big fan of, you know, soldiers and stuff like that. I think they're awesome and everything. But I'm not, I mean, it's not my thing. Movies about, you know, the military are just not my thing. And I mean, I understand that for other people, so it's just a matter of personal taste. For other people, that's the best. I mean, there's a lot of movies that's what they're about. I was concerned that was going to be too much of what this movie was about, but it sort of opened up to having more than that, with the other characters being significant enough to where it wasn't just about soldiers. And, you know, at first the soldiers were a little bit stereotyped, you know, but they got a little bit more likable as it went on, a little bit more real, you know, with their reactions. Like it wasn't like, oh, you know, Samuel Jackson, you know, the Sarge wants us to go do this and we're gonna do it because he's the Sarge and all that. No, I mean, they were like, this isn't right, you know, this guy's going a little nuts. So that was cool, because it wasn't just, at the beginning they seemed kind of cookie cutter soldier characters, and I guess that's one of the things I don't like about a lot of soldier movies, you know. But no, it got good in that department too. It was very, very enjoyable if you're in it for John C. Reilly and watching giant monster animals, which, when they're done right, they're great. When they're done on the Sci-Fi Channel, not so good. I can't sit through one of those cheap-ass giant snake movies. The original Anaconda movie was good. The first two Lake Placid movies were great, but I mean, Kong movies are great. I loved the Peter Jackson King Kong, and I'll be honest with you, I mean, this movie was awesome. It's a completely different kind of movie. The Peter Jackson King Kong speaks more to me, I think. I liked more the idea, oh, we're going out to shoot this movie, I'm a crazy director, and all that, you know, more than this. But this was cool too. And it focused enough on Kong. Because the Godzilla movie that came out before this, I believe is supposed to be the one that ties to this movie. And I fell asleep at that movie. Now, I was very tired when I went to see it, and I probably shouldn't have gone to a movie, but I just needed to, you know, sometimes I just need to be in the theater. And I went to see that one, and I literally fell asleep watching it. So, this one didn't have that problem. At no point was I, like, falling asleep at all. So, they did a good job. They did a good job here. They improved upon whatever they did with Godzilla, and hopefully the next one will, you know, will continue to be better than. And I didn't hate that other Godzilla movie. It's just they focused too much on the guy, the soldier guy. It was another. They're making these soldier people movies. That's what these so far have been, and I'm like, focus more on the monster. That's why I'm here. I'm here for the giants. I'm here for the, you know, the monkey and the lizard. But anyway, when all was said and done, I really liked this movie, and I really do recommend it. But if you are not into, like, soldier-type movies, I say stick with it. If you like big, you know, giant monsters and want to see them fight and stuff, if you don't like either one of those things, you're not going to like this movie. But if you know, if you like Kong, you know, this isn't anything about, you know, gorillas falling in love with human girls or anything like that. I mean, they do some cool, like, moments like that, but it's not Fay Ray and, you know, all that stuff. But everything they did was so good, really, with Kong interacting with the people. There wasn't a lot, but it was really good. And, yeah, I mean, the characters... John C. Reilly had the best role. And I mean, Sam Jackson was great too. He was a significant character. I don't feel like, you know, you have the hero characters, and I mean, they were good. I don't feel like they did a ton, but they were good. But it doesn't matter, because Kong was great. Kong was awesome. And I mean, that's what you're there for. You're there for Kong. So yeah, I do recommend this one. I think I hope it'll do well. I don't know. I don't know how it's doing. I haven't been keeping track of that kind of thing lately, but I hope it does well. I look forward to seeing the next installment. Very cool, very cool. And the effects, I was a little concerned with, because I was kind of thinking recently, does CGI really still look like CGI, or do we just know that it's CGI because it has to be? I don't know. I wonder if we haven't just gotten so prejudiced against CGI that we can't really. I don't know, but I don't know. I think you can still tell, but it was pretty good. It was pretty darn good. So it's just, how are you not gonna know that it's CGI? You know what I mean? I mean, they don't have, like, gorillas like that. They don't have creatures like you have in this movie, so you know it's CGI. But it was still really good. It didn't bother me like I thought it might, and I did not see the 3D version. I saw the 2D version. Haven't seen very many 3D movies lately. I'm not too drawn in by that. Sometimes I think, okay, I'm going to come back and see this again in 3D, but I usually don't. Yeah, it's not a big thing. I've never been impressed by it in the theaters. Only place I've been impressed by 3D is at theme parks. It's the only place. But anyway, hey guys, I'm back. I wanted to say I forgot about Kong Skull Island really quickly. There were some really fun little throwback, like, tributes in there. Like, there's a part where Sam Jackson says one of his lines from Jurassic Park, "Hold on to your butts." There's a scene. Oh well, there's one that I've totally forgotten. I wish I could remember, but there's also the jacket that John C. Reilly wears. It says "Good for your health" on the back, which is referencing his character of Dr. Steve Brule. Funny little gags like that throughout the movie. There was another one that I can't remember. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Anyway, The Founder. This is the movie starring Michael Keaton as Ray Kroc, the guy who is considered the founder of the McDonald's restaurant franchise. The one of the most maybe the most recognizable fast food franchises across the country, across the world, really. I mentioned before, grew up in the 80s and the 90s, but like I was a little kid in the 80s, which was also a big part of that also was McDonald's Happy Meals. McDonald's Happy Meals were really big throughout the 90s even. They had some pretty cool toys for a while there. Now it's they don't have a deal with Disney anymore because I guess Disney doesn't want that reputation of trying to sell junk food to kids. But for a while there, they were making some pretty cool stuff, and I collected them like crazy. I'd probably be a much smaller guy, but I was after those toys. And so yeah, went to McDonald's quite a lot growing up. I wanted to say I don't go there very often anymore, but actually, since I started eating lunch at work, I do go there now and then because it's cheap. But I'm trying not to. Those McDoubles are pretty good, though. They're like $2, and they're pretty good. It might be less than $2, actually. They're $2 with bacon. So, yeah. Anyway. Yeah. This movie, I'm going to say it's an independent movie. I believe it. I mean, I think a major studio released it or distributed it, I guess. But it seems to be a pretty independent movie, although it has some big stars in it. Again, Michael Keaton is the lead role. You also have, God, who else was in this? I'm trying to think of the woman who played. Oh well, Linda Cardellini from Scooby-Doo is in this, and Laura Dern. Laura Dern plays his wife, and there were several other recognizable faces. Patrick Wilson from the Conjuring movies and the Insidious movies. He's also in that. He played. Linda Cardellini plays his wife, and Laura Dern plays Michael Keaton's wife. So basically, Michael Keaton is a guy who sells milkshake makers to fast food restaurants, and this is like the 1950s. And he's on the road all the time. He's a salesman, and he's a very driven guy. But I think he started this company basically himself, and he's selling these milkshake machines across the country. He's driving across the country as a salesman and just going into like drive-ins, trying to sell them these machines. And he'll be sitting in the drive-in, eating hamburgers or whatever they sell, and thinking about his life most of the time at the beginning of the movie. And then one day he goes into this restaurant in California called McDonald's, and he's there because they placed a huge order. He's been having trouble selling these things, and then there's this restaurant in California that just ordered a ton of his milkshake machines, and he thinks there's been some kind of mistake. So he drives out there, and he sees that this place is doing phenomenal business. Most of these little drive-in places are just doing okay. They're full of teenagers. There's trash everywhere. Kind of unpleasant places. And then here's McDonald's, and it's just doing crazy great business. And there's families are the ones eating there. It's not a bunch of teenagers. So he's really curious. And these two guys, these two brothers, own the place, the McDonald brothers. And right away, they're happy to give him a full tour of the the way everything works and everything. And basically they've developed this super fast system, an assembly line kind of a system, to put these burgers together and make sure that every single one is perfect. And part of the way they do it is everything is, there's an exact way to make the burgers. It's the exact same everything that you put on it. Every burger is the same. And it's, you know, like I said, it's assembly line, and the customers have to walk up to the window. There's none of this going out to the car business. It's just a super fast system that they've got, and it's made them a huge success. And they're real particular about the quality of everything too, the quality of the food. So Michael Keaton is like, you got to franchise this place. You got to, like, it's, you know, you got to go big with this. He's always trying to, like, be a success. He wants to be huge. He wants to be a huge success, and he's still struggling. And he's an older guy now, and he's still struggling. So he sees this as his last big chance. And that's how he explains it to his wife. He's got this wife who's just frustrated with him trying to always, you know, come up with these schemes to, like, get rich and everything. But so he's like, you know, this is the last one. No, this is the one this is gonna be it. And she supports him. You know, it's, you know, there's drama there, but she stays supportive for him, which is kind of sad. Spoiler alert. Yeah, things don't go great in the marriage in the long run. So yeah, I'm gonna give some spoilers. I don't know if I'm gonna say everything. Maybe. I don't know who made this film. I don't know if it's totally historically accurate or what. Seems like it. It seems like a very accurate kind of a movie. And an interesting thing about it, I don't know how they got the rights to do what they did in this movie. It doesn't go hardcore with... It's like it doesn't reflect modern McDonald's. This whole movie takes place in the 50s, and then at the end there's a flash forward to, I don't know, 10 years later or whatever, showing how he's become a success. But the whole movie's kind of in the 50s, and you never see... I don't know when, I don't remember when Ronald McDonald, the character, came in, but you never see that. You never see Happy Meals or anything like that. It's not that kind of a nostalgia trip. It's more of a look at the original McDonald's, and it's cool. It's very cool. You know, you see how he builds this franchise, and you see how he's, you know, he keeps trying to make this big deal, you know, and so he works out a deal with the brothers, and they're reluctant, especially one of them in particular, because they want to keep their quality high, and they've tried this before. But he talks them into it, and he gets them to let him franchise across the country, but he struggles with keeping that high quality, and he struggles with those two brothers because they want everything just so. You know, interesting thing about this movie, and one of the very cool things about this movie, you start off really rooting for Michael Keaton's character, because he just seems like a guy who really wants something to work out in his life. He really wants to do something big, and he's determined, and he works hard at it. And he's, you know, he's smart. He's just hasn't, you know, found anything to hit yet. And he's found this thing, and he, you know, you can argue about who's the bad guy in this to a certain degree. Of course, eventually it's clear Michael Keaton gets really bad. This character that he's playing, this real person, because he's determined to make a success of McDonald's far more than the actual McDonald's brothers were. They were more concerned with quality and everything. They were more concerned with the integrity of what they created than making it a huge nationwide, worldwide thing. But that's not how Michael Keaton is thinking. He's thinking, you know, let's become millionaires from this. Long story short, he struggles with it, and he eventually has to start screwing over the brothers, and boy does he ever, to get this thing to work. and he makes McDonald's the success it is today. There wouldn't be a McDonald's. You know, there might be one in California, maybe still, the original. But yeah, without this Ray Kroc, no matter what he did, I mean, he's the one who made this thing a huge hit. The ideas were not his, but it wouldn't have left that one little restaurant. So, you know, I mean, those brothers were being really stubborn, but they had their ideas, and they were their ideas. I don't know, man. He clearly becomes. I don't know if he's. It doesn't seem like he's this way from the beginning, but he becomes a really bad guy, Michael Keaton, through the course of this movie. But to the point to where at the end he clearly says it. He's like, you know, you got to. I don't. It's been a while since I saw the movie. This is a very late review, but he basically, you know, says, you know, I did what I had to do, you know, to you know, I'm out to win it, you know, and he does. In the end, he wins it beyond belief, to the point of stealing, if you want to use that term, stealing, the wife of Patrick Wilson, who was one of the couple. They were a couple that, you know, took on the franchise. They were successful restaurant owners, I believe, in New York, maybe. And they wanted to get in on the McDonald's thing, and they came up with some good ideas, mainly the wife, Linda Cardellini's character. And by the end of the movie, she's married to Michael Keaton. So, yeah, it's a really good movie. And I have only one nitpick about this whole movie, beyond the fact that as somebody who grew up in the heyday, well, McDonald's is, you know, they've always done well, but like the days, you know, in the 80s, McDonald's was like king. I don't know. But so, you know, somebody who grew up with that kind of McDonald's, yeah, you know, I want to see Ronald McDonald, and I want to see Happy Meals and things like that. But this movie was fantastic, and I have one complaint, and that was the music. And one scene really strikes me, maybe because it wasn't just the music, maybe it was also the way it was. And this isn't on the actors, maybe it's more on the director, but the way they acted this scene, where they're sitting in a restaurant because Michael Keaton bought these two brothers, took them out for dinner, and you know, they're talking about how they got started with McDonald's. And the way they're telling the story, there was something hokey about it. But it's been a while since I've seen it, so I can't go into detail on that. But even through that scene, though, the music was a huge part of the problem. It was one of those things where the music was reminding you every second that you were watching like a low-budget, independent kind of film. And I've overlooked this to some degree for some really good independent movies that I saw like on Netflix or whatever, like you know, what was that? That's one that I absolutely love, and I need to get it on Blu-ray, about Walt Disney. I can't remember the title right now, but I've talked about it before. Yeah, the music was just, it's like they would play it when it wasn't appropriate. It was too loud. It was too, I mean, there were times when you just didn't need music, but they just played it constantly, and it just didn't fit anywhere. And maybe it would have been hokey to just play 1950s music throughout the movie, but the music they were using, this, I'm sure I think they were very proud of the score that they had, but it just didn't fit, and they were playing it at all the wrong times, and they were playing it too loud, and it was just distracting. I hated the music in this movie. Now, it maybe only bugged me in the first act of the movie. At some point it got toned down to where it didn't bug me anymore, but it was all that first act of the movie where he's discovering McDonald's and meeting the brothers, and they're talking about it together, especially that scene where, if I'm remembering correctly, they were playing it really badly in that scene where they're having dinner and telling the story. I feel bad if I'm wrong and they didn't do it in that scene, but because, like I said, it's been several weeks since I watched this movie. but the music was a huge problem, and that was my only real problem with the movie. And otherwise, I loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. The acting was amazing. There were some big, big actors. A lot of people you recognize, excellent actors. Michael Keaton, he's one of the great actors of our day. He really is. We need to see him in a lot more stuff. I can't wait for Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm always remembered of this, remembered. I'm always reminded of this thing that he did for Disney that you can watch on YouTube. I'm a huge Disney fan, as you know. And it was some kind of anniversary or celebration of Disney World, brought to you by Kraft. And this came out like in either the late 70s or early 80s. And Michael Keaton plays a Disney employee, and he's super young, and he sings and everything in it, and it is just a real treat to watch this program. And it's on YouTube, and you should check it out. But it's, it's mostly terrible, but that's why it's so good, and Michael Keaton is fantastic in it. Yeah, so I highly recommend The Founder. Go check it out, or rent it, or whatever. If it's on Netflix, watch it, when it comes. Fantastic movie, some bad music, but overlook it, because it's that whole thing about the score should just be in the background. It should just, you shouldn't notice it unless it's Indiana Jones or something. If it's a John Williams score, it's a character in the movie, and it's totally okay to notice it. But any other music should just be in the background, If you're not watching superheroes or Indiana Jones or Star Wars, that music should just be in the background. But yeah, this music was fighting us, for attention, and it wasn't appropriate for when it was being played. It was terrible. But the movie was excellent. I loved it. So yeah, that's The Founder. Check it out if you have any interest in McDonald's or Michael Keaton. And he goes from a character you support to a total bastard by the end of the movie. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting to watch. I highly recommend it. Okay, so that's almost it. All I'm going to say now is I saw some awesome movies at the Drafthouse. Went to some awesome movie parties. Basically, the Alamo Drafthouse here in Austin, Texas, and now they have them everywhere, to be honest with you. They're really franchising that place now. But it started here, and they do these movie parties, and they also just show old movies in general. And they show anime movies. They show all kinds of stuff. And I saw several of them in the past month or so. I got bronchitis at one point, and I really fell back with talking about any of this stuff. So going back as far as to where I last talked about this stuff, the first one that I went to see that I haven't talked about was My Neighbor Totoro, which I went to see subtitled, I believe. I was remembering that it was dubbed, but I checked some info I had on my phone, and I guess I saw the subtitled version of this. Sailor Moon, I had just seen the Sailor Moon movie shortly before that, and that one I ended up seeing the dubbed one, because usually the subtitled stuff sells out. But Totoro, I think I saw the subtitled one, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was just awesome. It was just so good. Love this movie. Kiki's Delivery Service will always be my favorite Studio Ghibli movie. And I love Studio Ghibli. And there's still many I haven't seen. There's many I own that I haven't seen. There was a big sale on them like around the same time, and I bought a bunch of them that I haven't seen yet. But Totoro is definitely up there from the ones I've seen. I like those relaxing Japanese landscapes, and just kids or just people just living life, and a little fantasy, like Kiki's Delivery Service. She's a witch, she flies on a broom, but in general, just people living their life in these beautiful landscapes and or these beautiful little villages, and it's art. These Ghibli movies are art. And people really love the ones that are about like warriors and things, like Princess Mononoke and stuff, but I love the nice, relaxing ones like Totoro and Kiki's Delivery Service. I like to sit at home and bake cookies and watch Kiki's Delivery Service. That's what I like to do. and yeah, like I always remember this one night. I just had a great night. It was a Saturday night. I baked these amazing cookies, and I watched Kiki's Delivery Service, and I watched my favorite Huckleberry Finn movie, which is the one with Elijah Wood, the Disney one. I could watch that movie just over and over and over. Yeah, that was a nice night. That was like probably in the 90s when that happened. But yeah, and you know, I try to recreate that sometimes. Yeah, loved it. And when I wore my little Totoro hat, but I got there barely in time before the movie started. Nobody saw my Totoro hat, but but I had a good time, and I enjoy seeing the Ghibli movies on the big screen. I'm gonna take my hat off because I'm having a rough time. I've never had my hair this long, but I'm doing this for a cosplay I've talked about many times already, and but it's very hard to get used to. I got to get my hair longer, like down to here, and I got to lose a lot of weight in order to do this cosplay by when I want to do it. But anyway, the movie I saw after this one was Ghost in the Shell. I saw Ghost in the Shell also at the Drafthouse. This one I saw dubbed. And it was my first time watching this movie, even though I've owned it for a long time. I'm not sure if I have it on standard def or Blu-ray, but I never watched it. I just never had time, and I always intended to. And they were going to show it on the big screen, so I jumped on the opportunity. And I have very mixed feelings about this movie. And it's interesting because they've got that big live action one coming out soon with Black Widow, because her name escapes me right now, who's a lot of guys, it's their favorite actress. I'm not one of those guys, but she's cool. And yeah, in that movie, the live action one looks like it's probably not very close to the animated film and plot, but hopefully it's closer than it looks. But yeah, this animated movie, an anime movie, it's a classic. It's one of the ones considered one of the classic ones, like Akira or something. But for me, it's basically about these secret agents or cops or whatever they are that are trying to stop this like hacker that is taking over. I want to say robots, and I always thought this was about robots, but it's more like cyborg type people that are they're mostly robots now. And honestly, I just didn't find it very engaging. I didn't find the characters very charming and very engaging. It was interesting. It was, you know, well animated and everything. So it was somewhat visually interesting some of the time. But I just never got drawn into it. I kind of struggled to stay involved. It was, you know, it was mostly cop movie stuff. And it wasn't even... There wasn't enough character development. There wasn't enough of an interesting story. Character development, that was probably a big thing. I mean, they tried, but I wasn't getting attached to anybody. I wasn't getting interested in anything. I was able to stick with it, but I wasn't super engaged. I'm gonna give it another try. I've got since I've got a copy here. If I don't have a Blu-ray, I need to upgrade because it is a classic, and I like to have those, and I like to watch them and over and over and just figure out what am I missing here. But yeah, I wasn't drawn in that much by Ghost in the Shell. I think maybe it was groundbreaking when it came out. You know, it's a very adult anime type thing, and you know, animation, at least in America, has never gotten to that point. I mean, we've made a few like that, you know, heavy metal and stuff like that, but not a lot, which is sad. You know, we don't treat it like a medium. We treat it like it's just something for. I hate that it's treated like something for kids, and I don't feel like it's always treated 100% like that. I think the Disney films have way more value than just being kids films. I kind of really hate it when people treat them like kids films, because to me they're much better than that. But of course, in you know, the Japanese stuff, even the stuff that they do intend just for kids is usually better than what we do that's just for kids. I mean, because we've got our stuff that's just for kids, very different. But yeah, I think it was probably groundbreaking when it came out. I'm not sure what year it came out, but I got to rewatch that one. I wasn't like impressed or anything as far as it's not going to be like a favorite film of mine or anything. So that was Ghost in the Shell. What else? Let me see. Three more that I can remember. Princess Bride. This one was a movie party, and by movie party I mean they gave us props and stuff to take home and to use as we watch the movie, and you're allowed to quote lines and stuff as they say them. They gave us these inflatable swords. They kind of look like space swords. I don't know why they didn't give us more traditional ones, but yeah. And it was kind of funny because I've never seen this before, but there were kids in the audience having vicious sword fights during the movie. And they gave us they gave us these little bells to ring during the romantic moments, and bubbles to blow. And it was fun, and it is one of the greatest movies ever made, The Princess Bride. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it. I have it on Blu-ray right here beside me somewhere on this shelf. It's a classic. It's a great movie to watch on Valentine's Day, even if you're alone. It's good stuff. Princess Bride, very funny. Now, what else? You know, I had a script that I never fully wrote out for Spaceballs, the prequel, and it started out with sort of a remake of the bookend stuff from The Princess Bride. It started out with an adult, what's his name, Kevin Arnold, the kid who's sick, staying home from school, and his grandpa comes over and reads him the book, The Princess Bride. In my script for Spaceballs, a prequel, it started out that way, but, you know, years later, the kid was an adult. And I'm not sure of the actor who played the grandpa, Columbo. I'm not sure if he's still alive or anything, but I had planned to use them and everything. It was a pretty cool script, but I never fully wrote it out. But anyway, he was staying home from work and everything. Recreating that. Let me grab something else here. Oh yeah, here it is. Bill and Ted. We saw a Bill and Ted movie party. They gave us these inflatable guitars and these glow thingies that once glowed. This one doesn't glow anymore. To wave around, you know, when the time travel was taking place. And we also got some bubble gum to chew, because there's a vital scene in the movie where they chew bubble gum to repair their time machine. Another of the great films, one of the great time travel films, one of the great sci-fi comedies, the original Bill and Ted. Coming home from that party, tried to watch the sequel. You really got to be in the mood, because the sequel is the sequel is good after you get past a certain point, but overall it is really bad compared to the first movie. So it can be a struggle, but it's got some really good things like death and death. What else? There's other good things. They go to hell. That part's funny. They go to heaven. I don't remember if that part was funny, but my low battery light came on. Okay, but the original film is a classic. The original film is hilarious, nonstop awesomeness. If you haven't seen the original Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you gotta watch it. And I finally saw some of the cartoon show, and even that is really funny. They actually had a live action TV series based on that movie, but I never got to see that. Different cast. Finally, and this was last night, 9 to 5 movie party. And it turned out it was actually National Women's Day or something like that. So it was a perfect movie for that. It was girly night, which is a thing they do at the Drafthouse. And sometimes they show some pretty darn good movies, and you got to go even though it's girly night. Although it's okay because you're in a theater full of females, and that's fine. But yeah, went to see 9 to 5, which is the classic from 1980 with Dolly Parton and Jane Fonda, and who else? Dabney Coleman. Does anyone remember Dabney Coleman? He was awesome in the 80s. One of my favorite movies, A Cloak and Dagger, with the kid from E.T., Henry Thomas, filmed in San Antonio. But 9 to 5. Who am I forgetting that's in that? Female comedian. Lily Tomlin is the one I was trying to remember, and very popular comedian in the early 80s. I always remembered her from The Incredible Shrinking Woman, and she used to come out, I think it was on the Electric Company that she used to come out, unless it was Sesame Street. She used to sit in a big chair, so she would look like a little kid. Anyway, yeah, she was really big in the early 80s, and it was her, Dolly Parton, Jane Fonda. They play 3 women who work in an office for an extremely sexist, male chauvinist boss, who is played by the always awesome Dabney Coleman, who was in a lot of stuff also in the early 80s. And yeah, they turn the tables on him, basically. And this is one of those comedy classics. You probably have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you've heard of it. You really need to see it. It is fantastic. It's really, really amazing. It's very 1980, but it's really awesome. Not that these issues don't still exist. You know, I mean, I'm not seeing them because I work in an office where I'm like the only man. I work for women. I work around women. I'm like bottom of the chain, and I'm the only guy there. But yeah, of course, though, in many places, many offices, I'm sure all this stuff still happens, which is sad. But very funny movie about turning the tables. And we saw it on National Women's Day, and they gave us, as part of the party, this wasn't actually a movie party, though. It was girly night. But we got our Cup of Ambition, which is part of the song. This is like the coffee mug that gets the rat poison in it during the movie, except with the word ambition written across it. And I dropped my other free item. Hang on. Yes, my pin. This pin says, "Goodbye, boss man, it's quitting time," which is a line from the movie. And then further down it just says, "It's quitting time." So yeah, and it's in very in the 1980s, these would be considered very feminine colors. And yeah, pretty cool. And this has a little Alamo Drafthouse logo too. So that's awesome. And had a really good time watching that movie. Before the movie, we had a lovely host, and before the movie, she had some people from the audience, whoever wanted to speak about why they're proud to be a woman and everything. And you know, as a man in the audience, once in a while they said things that seemed kind of like, hey, that's kind of insulting. Let's not just do reverse sexism. That's not good for anybody either, is it? But for the most part, no, it was very upbeat and supportive and everything. Very good movie. Highly recommend this classic. And that's about it, guys. Had a good time, saw a lot of movies, and that's what I do, right?